So picture this, it's 1953 and the democratically elected leader of Iran is suddenly overthrown. The big question is, why? Today, we're going to unpack the incredible story of the Iranian coup, an event that would completely reshape a nation and the global politics of oil, all based on the source material we're exploring.
Wow, okay, this quote really cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It sets up the central argument we're digging into here, that this whole thing wasn't about ideology or freedom, it was all about oil and geopolitical power. Let's see how that plays out.
All right, let's rewind a couple of years to 1951. This is where it all kicks off. Iran gets a new progressive leader, and he makes a move that, well, it sends shockwaves around the entire world. So you've got this guy, Mohammad Mossadegh, and he has huge popular support, right? His government does something pretty incredible. They decide to take back control of their own oil. I mean, for decades, this black gold had been in the hands of a British company. So for Iran, this was a massive statement. It was them saying, hey, this is ours. Yeah, as you can probably guess, that move did not go over well with the folks who were used to being in charge. An entire country just taking back its biggest asset? Oh, the backlash was immediate, and it was harsh. And this is where things get really fascinating. You see this instant flip in the story being told. Back home in Iran, Mossadegh is this popular, forward-thinking leader. But in the West, almost overnight, the narrative changes. Suddenly, he's a dangerous communist, a dictator, someone who has to be stopped. Talk about a PR spin. And look, these weren't just empty threats. We're talking about a full-on economic war launched by the UK. First, they pull all their oil technicians. Then they use their powerful navy to blockade Iran's biggest refinery. After that, they slap on sanctions for stuff like sugar and steel. And for the final blow, they freeze all of Iran's money sitting in British banks. The message was crystal clear: cripple the economy until they give up. But here's the thing, Mossadegh didn't flinch. Not one bit. In fact, he doubled down. He goes and nationalizes the telephone and fishing industries too. And then, and this is the big one, he starts getting friendlier with the Soviet Union next door. According to our source material, that was it. That was the last straw. For the West, this was all the justification they needed to go from economic warfare to something much, much darker. So now we're in early 1953, and the game has completely changed. Just squeezing the economy, that wasn't working fast enough. The new plan was, well, let's just overthrow the whole government. And this plan, it even had a code name, Operation Ajax. You gotta understand, this wasn't some random uprising. This was a top-secret joint operation planned out by the CIA and MI6. And it went all the way to the top. We're talking US President Eisenhower and UK Prime Minister Churchill gave it the green light. And you know, they put their money where their mouth was. The source we're looking at points to an MI6 officer who later admitted they spent over £2 million just on bribes in the 1950s. That's an absolutely staggering amount of cash, all meant to stir up trouble. So, where does £2 million go? Well, according to the text, you use it to basically create a fake revolution. The money supposedly went to hiring outraged protesters who weren't actually outraged, bussing in peasants from the countryside, you name it. They even brought in professional agitators, mobsters, thugs, basically anyone who could cause chaos on the streets and make it look like the people had turned against their own government. Okay, so the stage is set. The money's been paid out. Now it's time for action. And it all goes down on one single, incredibly violent day. The date was August 19th, 1953. This was it. Go time. The groups funded by the CIA and MI6 hit the streets of Tehran. Their mission was simple: overthrow the government, by any means necessary. What the source describes is just pure, organized chaos. These paid-for mobs flood the city. They're attacking police, they're attacking government supporters. They even set fire to Mossadegh's own house. And just like that, by the time the sun went down, Iran's government was gone. And let's be clear, this was not a peaceful transition of power. It was bloody. The clashes in the streets on that one day alone left more than 300 people dead. A heavy, heavy price. So, the coup is successful. The dust settles. Now what? Well, if you follow the logic of our source material, it all comes back to the one thing that kicked this whole mess off in the first place: oil. With Mossadegh out of the picture, a new leader is put in his place, the Shah.
The text we're looking at calls him a puppet dictator, someone who would be friendly to the West. And he was. He ruled for almost 40 years. And of course, with him in power, the path was clear to renegotiate who got Iran's oil. And here it is, the final prize. Iran's oil industry, which they had fought to nationalize, was denationalized. And it was just carved up like a pie. You can see it right here. A huge 40% slice for American companies, another 40% for the British, and the rest divvied up between the Dutch and the French. After everything, Iran's oil was right back in foreign hands.
So there you have it. That's the narrative of the 1953 coup based on the source we've been walking through. A story about a country trying to control its own destiny and the powerful forces that push back. The whole thing leaves you with a really big question, right? The source seems to suggest that history has a way of repeating itself. So when you look at the world today, what echoes of 1953 do you see? It's definitely something to think about.